Porta Margherita flavored pizza. Porta is a family-run business operating for over 30 years, based out of Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I'm going to be cooking and reviewing this pizza in this video, but before we do, let's have a quick look at the nutritional info, the ingredients, and the cooking instructions. You can find this pizza and other flavors in the frozen section of your supermarket. They also have 12 restaurants, bakeries, and shops across North America. Let's get into the full breakdown.
Crust.
Crust is a 4 out of 5. It has a nice crunch to it, it's light and airy, and it gives it a nice texture right out of the gate. It has a pleasant flavor to it too, not just a bland base. That said, underneath is a bit chewier than I'd like, and it's not that it was undercooked. I followed the cooking instruction, the cheese is melted right, and it has a nice crisp layer of cheese to it as well. So I guess that's just the way it is underneath, a little bit chewy. But the actual crust, really well done. It's one of the better parts of this pizza, so once again, 4 out of 5.
Sauce.
Moving on to the sauce. This is where things start to fall apart a little bit for me. Usually sauce is what defines a pizza. It's the element that sets it apart from the next, and in this case, there's almost nothing to talk about. It was nearly flavorless. I was expecting something more vibrant, especially considering this comes from a family-owned company that prides itself on handmade quality, but it wasn't tangy, it wasn't rich, and there certainly wasn't enough of it. Unfortunately, the sauce gets a disappointing 1 out of 5. Boo.
Cheese.
Let's move on to the cheese. Something they did do right. The blend of the two cheeses is excellent. It melts beautifully and it's even a little bit crispy in some areas, which adds a nice touch. It's gooey, flavorful, and well balanced across the whole pizza. And best of all, it's not greasy. It doesn't give the pizza a greasy feeling while it's in your mouth. And there's a generous amount of it. It really holds up everything together. Cheese is a nice 4 out of 5.
Toppings.
As for the rest of the toppings, it's a little bit more of a mixed bag. The pizza includes those Italian ripened tomatoes, olive oil, and basil. While the ingredients taste fresh and clearly aren't processed, most of them unfortunately fade into the background. I couldn't really detect olive oil at all, and the tomatoes, while fresh, didn't make much of an impact. The basil, on the other hand, there's a lot of basil. Almost too much. Even for a margherita pizza, it just had too much for my liking. It was the only flavor I really noticed. It overpowered the rest of the toppings instead of enhancing them. So while I appreciate the freshness, the balance just isn't there. Toppings overall get a 3.5 out of 5, and that's only because of the quality of the ingredients, not because of the execution.
Taste and seasoning.
Let's talk about taste and seasoning. As I mentioned, this pizza leans way too heavily on the basil. The sauce is barely present, and the tomatoes are barely noticeable. The balance is completely off. It ends up tasting fresh, sure, but flat, underwhelming, and honestly kind of forgettable. There's no real depth of flavor burst to carry it. It's a shame because the ingredients sound premium, but the final product just doesn't deliver. Compared to something like that Libretto pizza I reviewed a few weeks ago, this ain't it. Taste and seasoning gets a disappointing 2 out of 5.
Texture.
As we move on to texture, I'm sure you caught some of my references to it earlier, starting when I talked about the crust. It's crunchy and airy around the edges, but the bottom layer is soft and chewy. It's not unpleasant, but the contrast doesn't quite hit that perfect balance. The cheese does help. It's gooey in the center and it's got some crispy edges that add a nice layer of mouthfeel, but as a whole, the texture really doesn't come together well. It's not bad, it's just average. So for texture, it also gets an average score, 3 out of 5.
Presentation.
In terms of presentation, the pizza actually looks pretty good. It's not quite as inviting as the image on the box, or that Libretto pizza that I reviewed recently, but it's far from the worst I've seen in the frozen aisle. Once fully cooked, the cheese spreads nicely across the top, although it does hide most of the toppings. That is at least until you slice it up. The packaging looks clean and professional. The box design strikes a nice balance. It doesn't feel like a generic budget pizza, but it also doesn't scream over the top branding either. Presentation is a respectable 4 out of 5.
Spiciness.
As for spiciness, there is none. No heat, no kick, no zip. But to be fair, this isn't supposed to be a spicy pizza, so that's not a bad thing. Spiciness is a 0 out of 5 on the spice level.
Value.
Value for money. Now, this is where things get a bit tricky. At $13.99 plus tax, it's on the high end for a frozen pizza. That's premium pricing right there. And with that kind of cost, I expect a premium experience. Something that pushes close to a 5 out of 5, like that Libretto pizza I reviewed. The portion size is good. It's on par with other frozen pizzas you'll find in the grocery store. It's not smaller than average, but size alone doesn't justify the price. If this was like $6 to $8 range, I might feel differently, but as it stands, value for money gets a 2.5 out of 5.
Uniqueness.
Uniqueness. That's another weak point here. At the end of the day, this tastes like a standard frozen store-bought pizza. Maybe a little bit better than some, but nothing that sets it apart. That Libretto pizza stood out because of its standout flavor and elevated quality. This one just blends in. There's nothing here that feels particularly different or memorable. It's a missed opportunity. I was really expecting more. Uniqueness gets a 1 out of 5.
The Ruby test.
Before I move on to my overall rating, my dog Ruby's gonna try a piece of this pizza. Let's see if she likes it. So Ruby liked this pizza, so much so where she wanted more. But then again, she is a dog, and she likes pretty much everything that we give her. With the exception of those turtle chips I reviewed a while back, you should check out that video. She didn't like those chips.
Final rating.
Overall, this pizza isn't bad, it's just not great. It might be a little bit better than your average frozen store-bought pizza, but it's not good enough where I would buy it again. The crust is well executed, the cheese is gooey and satisfying, and the ingredients do taste fresh, but the sauce, it's almost non-existent, and the balance of flavor is really off, tastes way too much like basil, and that $13.99 price tag, ooh, that's a hard pill to swallow. If this pizza was lower priced, maybe it had a little bit more personality to it, I might buy it again, but overall, I'll give it a 3 out of 5, and I think that's being generous. Anyways, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching.